Welcome back to the Deep Dive. We are here to take your stack of source material, sift through it, and deliver the concentrated knowledge you need.
And today we're getting into the Old Testament book of Nehemiah, specifically chapters 3 and 4.
And this is such a necessary deep dive because, if you've spent any time in a church or even a business seminar, you've probably heard about Nehemiah.
Oh, absolutely. It's often presented as the go-to manual for, effective management.
Right. It's all about leadership, delegation, problem solving. It gets treated like a kind of spiritual business strategy.
Exactly, like an Aesop's fable.
Yes. Where the whole point of David and Goliath is just the bigger they come, the harder they fall. It just misses the grandeur of it all.
And our sources today really push back on that. They argue that, yeah, the leadership principles are there, but they're secondary.
Okay.
The real mission here is to understand how Nehemiah fits into this one huge, continuous story.
The divine narrative arc.
That's it. And that brings up a really key point about how we even read the Bible. It's a human book, right? We have to understand the language, the context.
But it's also a divine book.
It is. And because God is the author behind the human author, it's all pointing in one direction. There's a trajectory.
And if you miss that trajectory, you might get some good advice, but you're going to miss the final destination.
You'll miss the whole point.
Okay, let's unpack this. So let's start with that trajectory. What is Nehemiah pointing toward? How does seeing that change how we read it?
Well, it changes everything. Because Nehemiah himself, he's what theologians call a type.
A type. A foreshadowing.
A foreshadowing. A blueprint pointing directly to the ultimate Nehemiah, who is Jesus Christ.
Yeah.
Just think about the setup. Nehemiah is the cupbearer to the king of Persia. He is completely safe, comfortable, secure in the palace.
He has it made.
Totally. And yet he gives all that up. He leaves the safety to go and identify with his people who are suffering in the rubble of Jerusalem.
That's a huge act of self-sacrifice, risking his life, his reputation.
And that's a perfect mirror of Christ, isn't it? Jesus leaves the ultimate palace heaven, not just risking his life, but actually paying with his life to identify with us in our own spiritual rubble.
The parallel is powerful, but so is the contrast in scale.
It highlights Nehemiah's greatness, but it also shows his limits.
Now, at the time, Nehemiah's job was literally to rebuild the physical city. Why were those stone walls so important at that specific point in, as you call it, redemptive history?
Because at that stage, God's people were a nation state. They needed a capital city, and a city needed a wall.
It's not just about defense, is it?
No, it's very practical. Without a stable, protected city, you can't have rule of law, you can't have a stable economy. You're just living with vigilantism and chaos.
So the wall was essential for their survival as a nation under God's covenant.
Exactly. But even the Old Testament prophets knew that Jerusalem was a sign of something much bigger.
Oh, okay.
Isaiah talks about the ultimate city, where God sets up salvation as its walls and bulwarks.
So the ultimate walls aren't made of stone.
They're walls of salvation. They protect us not from Persia, but from sin and from death.
That is a staggering contrast. A city defined by redemption, not fortification.
And that's the city Jesus came to make us citizens of. We're looking forward to that ultimate city coming down from heaven that we read about in Revelation.
So if that's the big picture, what does that mean for us today? Because if you just read Nehemiah literally, you might think our job is to, build cultural walls to keep outsiders away.
Right, and the sources are clear on this. Our job is not to build physical walls or call down curses on our opponents. Our job is to build up the people of God.
Through spiritual means?
Through conversion, through sanctification. We're building that spiritual city every time a new citizen is brought in by faith.
That context is, it's vital.
Yeah.
Okay, so now that we get the walls of salvation, let's go to the actual stones and mortar in chapter 3.
Yes, the chapter everyone skips.
It's so famous for being skipped. It's just this dense, long list of names and gates and sections of the wall.
It is tedious on the surface. But if you skip it, you miss one of the most incredible truths in the entire book. This list shows us how the work actually got done.
And it wasn't by some specialized team of masons.
Not at all.
The key phrase that just repeats over and over is next to him. They're working side by side.
And the amazing part, the real aha moment, is who is doing the work. The diversity is just astounding.
You have men and women. There's that great detail about Shalom repairing a section with the help of his daughters.
Which is fantastic. But then look at the jobs. You've got ruling classes next to working classes. You have goldsmiths, merchants, even perfume makers.
Perfume makers. What is a perfume maker doing hauling stones?
I mean, these are luxury trades.
Yeah.
It shows that every single gift, every profession was being repurposed for this one great task.
And critically, the clergy are in there too.
Right in the thick of it. The high priest, Eliashib, and his fellow priests are working next to everybody else.
This feels like a huge shift, a progression away from the time of, say, Moses or David, where one leader carries all the weight.
It's a massive move toward the whole people of God doing the work of ministry.
And you said this connects to a larger theological idea about the concept of holiness, the Hebrew word kadosh.
It does. Think of holiness as God's special presence. In the early days, it was temporary. Jacob sets up a stone at Bethel, but then he leaves, and the presence is gone.
Okay.
Then it gets fixed in a place. The tabernacle, then the temple. Holiness is behind a thick curtain in the Holy of Holies.
So it's contained, it's exclusive.
Exclusive, exactly.
Yeah.
But the prophets start looking forward to a day when that glory cloud will be over all the people.
No, just in a building.
No. Zechariah says even the bells on the horses will be inscribed, Holy to the Lord. Holiness was going to break out and saturate everything.
So Nehemiah 3, with the priests working next to the perfume makers. That's a glimpse of that future.
It's a powerful foreshadowing. And the New Testament reality, after Christ tore the veil, is that we are the living temple. The Holy Spirit is in us. We are all called to ministry.
So, key takeaway 1. Every single Christian has a ministry. It's not a job for specialists. It's all hands on deck.
Your gifts, your background, where God has placed you, it's all part of the building project.
And that leads to the second takeaway, which is about the unity this creates. The next to him principle is a powerful leveler.
It is. It brings all these different classes and skills together. And the bond they form is established at what you might call the uttermost foundation of stone in a person.
That phrase, uttermost foundation, it makes me think of that story about Dr. David Martin Lloyd-Jones.
Oh, it's such a perfect illustration. Here's this brilliant royal physician destined for the highest echelons of British society.
The House of Lords, maybe.
Probably.
Yeah.
And he gives it all up for a small church in a poor fishing village in Wales.
Incredible.
And he was asked later if he ever doubted that call.
And he said when doubt came, he'd ask himself, why would I rather talk about Jesus with the humblest fisherwoman in Wales than talk about medicine with my peers?
That's the foundation. His identity as a doctor, an elite, that was a high layer. But Christ reached the deepest layer. His core identity as a sinner, saved by grace.
That bedrock.
That bedrock sits underneath race, class, education, everything.
And when you share that bedrock with someone else, all those other differences they fade.
You're connected at a level that nothing else can touch. The goldsmiths and the priests in Nehemiah 3 shared a deeper identity than their job titles.
That's so moving. Goldsmiths, priests, women, all bonded by that foundation. But of course, whenever you see that kind of unity, conflict is never far behind.
It's right on cue.
Which brings us perfectly to chapter 4. Opposition arrives.
And the scorn is immediate. Sanballat and Tobiah just start mocking them.
They call them feeble Jews. They say if a fox climbed up on their wall, he would break it down.
And on top of that external ridicule, there's internal collapse. The laborers are exhausted. The rubble is overwhelming.
And the threat of attack is constant. 10 times over, the text says.
So in this perfect storm, Nehemiah's response gives us our first big theme from chapter 4.
The famous line.
We prayed to our God, and we posted a guard day and night.
And here we are, right at that central tension in the Bible. God's sovereignty and our human responsibility. Intellectually, they feel like they can't both be true.
Right. If God is in control, why do I need to act? But if my action is essential, how can God be fully in control? The Bible just holds them together.
Like with King Hezekiah, God promises to heal him, but he still has to apply the fig plaster.
The promise and the action are the means to the end. But my favorite example, which the sources point to, is the Apostle Paul on that ship in Acts 27.
In the storm, yeah.
It's perfect. An angel of God guarantees Paul that not a single person on the ship will die. The promise is absolute.
It's a done deal from God's side.
But then the sailors try to sneak off in the lifeboat. And Paul runs to the centurion and says what?
He says, you've got to keep them in the boat, or we are all going to die.
It makes no logical sense. He knows no one will die,
Yeah.
but he insists that human action is required to see the promise fulfilled.
So he's not saying God promised, so I can relax. He's saying God promised, so now we have to walk the path he's laid out to get there.
You have to live in that tension. What you do matters intensely, but God is completely in charge.
That's incredibly freeing. It gives you the motivation to work hard, but also the peace that the ultimate outcome doesn't depend on your perfection.
It saves you from the paralysis of thinking you could screw up God's plan, and it saves you from the laziness of fatalism.
Okay, the second big theme in chapter 4 is dealing with being despised. That scorn seems to be a predictable pattern. You do something good for God, and opposition is right there.
Look at Jesus. He's baptized. God's voice thunders from heaven. In the very next scene, he's in the wilderness being opposed.
So Sanballat's mockery, "Hear us, O God, for we are despised," that's just the normal Christian experience.
We promised it. It's the beatitude we all hate.
Blessed are you when people insult you. Yeah, nobody puts that on a motivational poster.
Not at all. And it's a trend that even secular observers notice. You mentioned the novelist Anne Rice.
Yeah, she was shocked when she started studying New Testament scholarship.
She found that so many of these highly educated academics who devoted their whole lives to studying the historical Jesus actually, in her words, detested and despised him.
A level of antagonism you just don't see in other fields of history. So this disdain is the norm, not the exception.
It is. But our response to it, this side of the cross, is fundamentally different from Nehemiah's.
Okay.
He prays what's called an imprecatory prayer. He asks God to take vengeance. As Derek Kidner notes, those are righteous cries against injustice, but we have a deeper resource now.
And that resource is what Christ did.
Exactly. Christ was the one who was stricken, despised, who made himself of no reputation. He took the ultimate shame that we deserved.
So because our names are written in heaven, our citizenship is secure in that ultimate city.
We can handle a little hit to our reputation here on earth.
We still look to God for vindication, but we also have the resources to love our enemies in a way Nehemiah just couldn't. The ultimate shame has already been absorbed.
Precisely.
This has been a true deep dive. Let's try to summarize the big insights here.
Okay.
First, Nehemiah isn't just a leadership book. It's a prophecy pointing to Jesus, the ultimate builder of the walls of salvation.
Right. And second, the work of God requires everyone. All hands on deck. The goldsmiths, the priests, the daughters, all united at that deep foundational level of their identity.
That uttermost foundation of stone. And third, we have to live in that tension from chapter 4.
Praying fiercely and working diligently.
Knowing that when we face that scorn, our ultimate reputation is secure because Christ bore the ultimate shame for us. You know, that discussion about identity, connecting that royal physician with the humblest fisherwoman, it really stuck with me.
Me too.
That our bond in Christ really does go deeper than every earthly label, class, race, profession, even politics.
If we connect this to the bigger picture, if the foundation of your identity is truly that deep, that secure, what work or relationship in your life right now are you avoiding? Because the people involved are just too different from you.
Too different socially, professionally, politically.
What's one step you could take this week to apply that next to him principle and start building shoulder to shoulder?